You're listening to Nostalgia Club, the podcast where we look back on our favorite childhood stories and revisit them as adults. At least one of us hasn't read or watched these series, so we also get a first-timer's opinion. Spoiler alert, we will be discussing storylines and future events beyond the first books and episodes, so proceed with caution.
According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyway. Because bees don't care what humans think is impossible.
Welcome back to Nostalgia Club. I'm Victoria, and joining me is, as usual,
Jino.
and...
Why are we here?
and Michael! Yay!
Hi, it's Michael. Why are we here?
But if not to suffer.
But if not to suffer and die in a shockingly short amount of time as bees. I have a question for the both of you. Who here is nostalgic for the Bee Movie?
Well, I'm not, because I hadn't seen it until last night.
Which is shocking to me.
And
It's shocking to me.
When did this come out?
That's a good question.
2007.
2007? I was in 7th grade, probably. I didn't remember a whole lot until rewatching it. Victoria, how old were you? Victoria's frantically doing math, I think.
I was 9 years old.
Okay, 4th grade. On a scale of nostalgic to meme, why are we here?
Well, okay, mainly I really wanted to do this episode because Jino has never seen the Bee Movie, which I feel like the Bee Movie is an essential part of internet meme culture. And so Jino had to watch the Bee Movie.
Yeah, it really, how long after the Bee Movie's release did it become a meme? It was like 10 years, right? 2017 was when the memes started popping off. For any of you who was on the internet, for any of you who was, I don't know, buzz, buzz, buzz. For any of you who buzz on the internet around 2017, maybe you remember, things move fast online.
I think it might have been earlier than that. It must have been earlier than that.
It was freshman year of my college experience that all of my friends, for their film projects, decided to make Bee Movie parodies. Titled Bee Movie. That's when I learned that film really can change the world.
So what year would that have been?
2016.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it must have been before that because I remember in high school there were already Bee Movie memes.
That was like its peak. That's when it really hit its stride.
I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember much of my interactions with the Bee Movie aside from watching it as a kid, and even then, I barely remembered the movie.
Did you watch it more than once?
No, I only watched it once.
Yeah, same here. Until very recently.
Yeah. Literally, the only thing I remembered from this movie is the bee who stings someone in the courtroom and then has to get surgery and gets his stinger replaced by a plastic sword.
Oh, yeah, like a little cocktail decoration.
Like a sandwich skewer.
And that's how he doesn't die. And I also only remembered that shot where it pans down to this human-sized hospital bed and he's just this tiny bee.
One of its more redeeming jokes.
It's hilarious. I think as a kid, I enjoyed it. Like it was a fun movie.
Thank you for listening, Nostalgical. Did you enjoy it on your second pass?
I enjoyed it in a different way.
Yeah, I guess I can say something similar. Part of me was like, how far we've come. How far we've come in not making bad choices about some of the jokes that we make.
Some of the jokes in that movie were real bad, and I cringed. The start of the movie, the world building is kind of fun. It's very vibrant. It's about this bee named Barry B. Benson.
I'm convinced that the only reason they named him Barry is because it starts with a B and it rhymes with Jerry.
Yeah. Yep.
Barry is voiced by Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
If for whatever gracious reason you did not know before this episode, yes.
And it's his graduation day, and he meets up with his best friend Adam, and they go to graduation, and the graduation ceremony is 5 seconds long, if that. And then there's a little bit of context where they say, we were in elementary school for 5 days, and then college for 5 days, etc. So
I think it was even shorter than that, right?
3 days, actually. Wasn't it 3 days?
I think it's literally been 5 days since they were born. Maybe I'm
The
exaggerating.
lifespan of bees is short. They go to graduation and they immediately get pushed into the factory.
Into the workforce.
Yeah,
Away
into
with
the
you.
workforce, where they're told that there are all these different departments that they could work in, but once you make your department decision, you are working there for the rest of your life. And Barry hates that idea. Adam is like, yeah, like I'm so excited to just be part of the workforce forever. And Barry's like, I don't know, like I feel like I don't know what I want to do. I feel like I need to examine my choices a bit.
I think I'm the protagonist.
It really comes out of nowhere, too. He's like, yeah, work, job. Work and job? Wait a minute. No one told me about work and job. When I was so excited this morning about work and job, I didn't realize I would be doing work and job. What? I'm Jerry Seinfeld.
Wait, what are you talking about?
This is not a movie. This is an animated stand-up special.
It really is. It's a series of bits.
It's a series of bits with nothing between them.
Yeah. What else is there to say?
It's a bit sandwich, and the filling is bits.
So
Where do we
Barry
even begin?
and Adam are having a conversation, and Barry's like, I think I'm the protagonist because I don't want to go with the status quo. And Adam's like, I think I'm the best friend character because I'm trying to convince you that things are okay.
Yeah.
And they see the bees that are dedicated to going out of the hive and bringing back pollen and nectar and stuff, and they're called pollen jockeys. And we are told you have to be bred for that. This movie plays a little fast and loose with the real-life facts and biology at play in the bee world. Because on the one hand, you have this idea that bees are locked in a certain way of doing things that is intrinsic to their biology. They only live for 9 months, and life moves fast. But at the same time, they drive funny little cars, and they have funny little schools. So Barry's like, oh, look at the pollen jockeys. I want to do that thing. I want to fly outside the hive and be this cool, muscular bee. And I want to pick up bee women by being a cool, muscular bee. And the pollen jockeys, they kind of make fun of him, and they play up this whole thing of, oh, yeah, you a pollen jockey too? Oh, yeah, sure. Well, we're going to be meeting at 0900 over here on the airstrip, on the bee airstrip, to go do more pollen jockey stuff if you think you're game. It's a very weird interaction.
This whole movie is weird interactions because they need to get to the next bit as fast as possible.
Yeah, and Barry joins them, and I will say I really like the pollen jockeys because when Barry joins them, they don't try and kill him by abandoning him in the wider world.
Yeah.
Barry signs a waiver, and the pollen jockeys are like, oh, you showed up. Ah, cool. Hey, stand back a little guy. We're going to show you how it's done. They honestly seem like the most real people in this entire movie because they're just very average with a sprinkling of personality.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing for me to say. They seem like real people because they're just normal with a sprinkling of personality.
Just like me.
Just like me, normal with just a few jimmies, a few right on top of the old Michael ice cream sundae.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I will agree with Victoria. The first 15, 20-ish minutes of this movie, they're not horrible.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of fun. It's like Barry gets to go out and see the wider world, and the animation was okay.
It's extremely fast-paced, but they justify it by saying bees' lives are extremely fast-paced. Yeah. You're going through this at the speed of a bee. It does get a little weird as soon as everyone starts talking. And I will say, the movie holds up visually really well, except for anything that moves. As soon as it starts to move, it's bad. If it talks, it's worse. But if it stays perfectly still, it looks really good.
Box kite.
Box kite, the hive at night, that was a pretty cool shot.
Yeah.
I like that. Anything that walks, kill it with fire.
I didn't think the bees were that bad. And then I saw the humans and I was like, oh no, the humans look real bad. The humans in this movie are terrifying.
You can see where DreamWorks started.
Yeah.
That's such a nice way to put it.
Well, DreamWorks has always done this very caricaturish thing with the way that they show humans. I mean, we talked about this in the How to Train Your Dragon episode. The Vikings and How to Train Your Dragon, the movie, are giant barrels.
Yeah, but
with limbs.
the caricaturation, the weird shapes that people are in How to Train Your Dragon work for their characters. Stoic is large and powerful because that's who he is. So they make him take up a lot of the frame. Hiccup feels small, so he is small. Rough Nut and Tough Nut are kind of gangly little goblin people, so that's their shape, you know?
Yeah.
Fish Legs is a big, lovable nerd. Their shape, their character design fits their personality. In the Bee Movie, they're all just terrifying to look at.
because this movie just exists.
It exists.
There's a spirit behind How to Train Your Dragon, and a spirit behind the character designs. And in this movie, it's like
It's Jerry Seinfeld.
It's
He's
Jerry
the
Seinfeld.
spirit, and you never want him behind you.
and Renee Zellweger plays his platonic love interest.
It's definitely not platonic.
Well, it ultimately is, but that's not the way that Jerry Seinfeld as a bee interprets it, at least at the start.
I don't know how the character Vanessa feels about it, but Barry definitely is in love with her. Like,
Yeah.
romantically attracted to this woman.
The character Vanessa is insane.
The character
She's insane.
I think Vanessa is doing fine up until the moment that Barry talks to her. And I
Yeah.
think from that moment on, she is experiencing a mental breakdown for
Well,
the rest of
whole
the movie.
movie is fine up until Barry talks to Vanessa.
And then it's just downhill from there.
Yeah.
Sure. Even just from the beginning watching this movie, I'm like, this feels like a different era of animation.
I mean, that's okay, that is true.
I am comfortable having moved past.
It sits comfortably in that era up until the human bee interaction starts.
Yeah.
This movie could just cut out the entire humans talking to bee plot. Just cut it all out. The whole courtroom drama, just cut everything out. And it could just be about Barry learning that humans take honey. And then you could just have like a weird, like fun heist movie about like Barry being in the world for the first time. You could have like a Bolts-esque movie about a bee being outside the hive for the first time and trying to learn the ropes and meeting these other, mosquitoes and whatnot and being like, oh, the outside world's scary. And the mosquito's like, don't worry, kid. I gotcha. But instead, he has to do anything other than that.
Well, Renee Zellweger's boyfriend is Patrick Warburton. And Patrick Warburton was apparently given the direction to yell everything.
Louder and louder and louder.
Louder and louder.
And somehow, at parts, he is the most relatable character.
Yeah, because he's going, the world's gone mad! Everyone's talking to a bee!
The only person pointing at the movie and going, what is this? What am I a part of? And everyone else is like, this is normal and fine. And he's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
My marriage is falling apart because you're talking to a bee.
I just want to chime in and say I apologize for that horrible Patrick Warburton impression I did about 10 seconds ago. That was not my best Patrick Warburton, and I'm too afraid to try again. So what else happens? Barry learns that humans have a honey industry, and he takes it upon himself to figure that situation out, and then takes it upon himself to start a legal case to get the humans to give back all the honey.
And he wins through the dumbest bits. He wins through bits.
Yeah.
He wins because his bits are good.
Yeah.
Which is Jerry Seinfeld's dream. Winning life because his bits are good.
One can only imagine. Well, I suppose that's Jerry Seinfeld's reality.
I guess so.
He won because his
Can we
bits are
talk
good.
about Jerry Seinfeld's performance as Barry B. Benson?
Here's where I get confused, right? Because Jerry Seinfeld had a whole TV show, Seinfeld. And he was just, the way he acts in Seinfeld is very similar, I think, to the way he acts as Barry as a bee.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is that Jerry Seinfeld, having fun and giving it his all? Or is this just, what?
From what I can tell, the character of Barry B. Benson has 3 modes. The first mode is wide-eyed protagonist. He's, whoa, the world's so big, and what's this? They're doing what with the honey, and I have to stop them. And the second mode is when he's talking to himself, and that's when he's the most likable. Because when he's just doing his best by himself, that's when he sounds the most realistic. He's like, oh man, I gotta hide. Oh, what are you doing, Barry? Come on, Barry. Let's go back to the hive. And then you have Jerry Seinfeld. And that's when he's just Jerry Seinfeld, and his entire characterization gets thrown out the window, and he's like, haha, you like jazz? I'm funny because I surf in the toilet. Flirting with the human woman. Aha, I'm a good lawyer. Jerry Seinfeld. And it switches between them so quickly, it's like whiplash.
I think you're right. I think that's a very accurate way to sum up the enigma of Barry B. Benson.
He's got a cute character design.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He's cute, and then you see him for too long.
And
And then eventually you're like, what is this uncanny valley of expressiveness and humanity and just psychopathy? I don't know. There's something strange about the short cropped black hair and large, very human, blue irised eyes on this very cartoon bee. and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with so much of this.
But Michael, he wears cute sweaters that are yellow and black.
Oh, that's another thing. We're just led to believe, at least maybe my eyesight is going, but I thought he was just a bee. And then all of a sudden I'm watching the movie and he tucks his hands into his skin, into his carapace, and I'm like, oh, that's a sweater. Oh, okay.
At the beginning of the movie, he chooses a sweater.
Yeah, but there's so much happens between those 2 points that you're going to forget the sweater part.
Victoria, you have to understand, I was losing my mind. Every single thing that happened was just like leaving my memory as soon as it went. Every single moment is a new moment. Every minute is a new minute.
Every moment I thought, hey, this movie is not too bad. It destroyed itself in the next 5 seconds. And then I had to spend another 10 minutes wallowing in that pain. And then, hey, you know what? I'm being harsh. It's not too bad. What are they doing? Is that Sting? How do they convince Sting to be in this?
Ray Liotta?
Ray Liotta? Don't let them do that to you. I don't even know who you are. Ray Liotta, you mean nothing to me.
John Goodman?
Oh, yeah.
John Goodman doing an impression of himself?
Why is he in a baby seat? Get him out of there.
John Goodman plays like a southern lawyer who sounds kind of like this. But like that accent that John Goodman has affected in the past, specifically thinking of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He's like doing a caricature of that. I don't know. It just feels like so many of these actors are doing caricatures of characters that they've played.
Yes.
Or like caricatures of the public perception.
Because that's Jerry Seinfeld's world. That's the world he wants to create. Everyone's a bit. The only person who's not a bit is Jerry Seinfeld, because he's the straight man, or B.
He's a very straight B, all right. He's straight across the species spectrum.
Oh, boy.
You know what's interesting? His yells. His screams. I feel like I've heard him yell like this in Seinfeld, but whenever he's yelling as a bee flying through the intake of a car, it's like, ah! Or, ah!
He really does sound like he's giving it his 30%.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't know if Jerry Seinfeld can actually yell. Maybe just the way his vocal, like, his whole arrangement is designed, if he ever tried to yell, it would just, like, hit a limiter and, like, it would be like, ah! And, like, it would just stop. I don't know. Maybe that's the best yell that he can do.
On his voice.
Also, I think it's hilarious that there's a whole sequence where Barry flies into the intake of a car and goes through the entire internal system of a car. Because isn't Jerry Seinfeld a car guy? I'm pretty sure he's a car guy. I think doesn't he have the series Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so he's a car guy. Part of me wonders if, because he was so attached to this movie, he was so much of the creative force behind it, that he was like, that he created that scene and was like, oh yeah, it'll be hilarious. Barry will go through the internal combustion system of a car. And just because of his own knowledge, created this whole sequence of Barry going through the internal combustion system of a car. I don't know.
How is Barry not dead?
You're asking that question?
Don't question a single drop of logic in this movie.
I know, I'm kidding.
In this movie, all the plants die because they're not getting sprinkled with pollen, because that's how plants work?
I mean, it would be a disaster if the bees stopped being bees.
The thing is, it happens so fast. It's implied that basically overnight, the whole world collapses. Or at least just this one city. All of the vegetation dies.
Right.
It specifically said in the end, like, another wonderful slice of interesting logic. All the flowers are gone. It says, like, there are no more flowers left in the world. AKA, everyone is screwed. And the last flowers in the world are being put to use in the Pasadena Rose Parade. Because of course they would be. That's the climax of the movie, is Barry and Vanessa. Vanessa's a florist, and she's going to see the Pasadena Rose Parade, which they do set up earlier in the movie.
In the wildest 180 of genre flips, in this movie full of 180 genre flips.
Yeah, they go steal all the flowers from the Pasadena Rose Parade.
It's like a heist movie for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, literally 3 minutes.
And then it's a plane disaster movie for 3 minutes. It's a courtroom drama for 10 minutes. It's a romance movie for like 15 minutes. It's an allegory of workers' rights for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, the allegory for workers' rights part is
a mess.
The
bees wouldn't just stop. That's not how anything, they'd run out of honey eventually. Like the premise is that, oh, we got all the honey back. We're just going to stop doing anything. and just lie on our backs and be paralyzed by all this honey we have. They're going to go through their honey at some point, and they'll have to go back to making honey.
That's why they had to speed up the timeline of everything dying so fast, because eventually, realistically, if all the bees in the world stopped working and spreading pollen around, eventually it would take like a couple months for everything to slowly wither away. And at that point, the bees would be like, hey, we're starting to run out of honey. I guess we should go out and pollinate some flowers.
But also, like, trees don't die when random roses stop getting pollinated. They don't just, like, crumble to dust.
Well, a lot of the scientific parts of this movie are vastly inaccurate.
I'm not a smart enough person to be able to create a scenario, a play-by-play of exactly what would happen if everything stopped getting pollinated or the bees stopped doing their thing. I know it's instrumental.
If the bees stopped doing anything, it would be a disaster.
I'm pretty sure it would create widespread famine pretty fast.
Yes, absolutely. But not every plant is pollinated by bees, and not every plant is pollinated at all by pollinators.
That's true.
There's a reason why when I go back to my hometown of Houston, Texas, I pass away because the trees are just spewing pollen into the air. Because why not, I guess, into the lungs of every living thing in a 500-mile radius. They're just spewing it into the air, and it's coating your car and the sidewalk and the entire freeway. And that's how they do it. The bees aren't required for that. Yes, it would be horrible. It would be a disaster. It would be a disaster. Aha. I can do it too, Jerry. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Hey, do you guys remember seeing ads for a B-movie video game?
I think so. I think it was just called B-Movie Game.
Wow, that is not creative.
I wonder if it was a good adaptation. Should we ask our friends at Adapt or Die to cover it?
No. But you should listen anyways because they've got a lot of good content on their show.
Adapt or Die, a podcast about adaptations. Books turned into movies, games turned into shows, comics turned into plays. Pippa and KJ cover just about everything from jukebox musicals to sprawling fantasy series to Twilight.
These two literary nerds dive deep into their favorite adaptational successes, failures, and head-scratchers, like B-Movie Game, I'm sure, and piece together their evolution from source material to adaptation. Their goal? To answer the seminal question, did it adapt or did it die?
They also create bonus content, including fun holiday special episodes and a series where they describe how they would adapt some of their favorite IPs if only they had the power. They just released an episode for their annual Valentine's Day tradition of ranking monster boyfriends. This year's episode is about zombies.
Gross. Hot.
Check out Adapt or Die on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and follow them at adapt_or_die_ on Instagram and Twitter.
Can we talk about the workers' rights thing? This movie, okay, I don't know what it's trying to say. I don't think it knows what it's trying to say.
No, it definitely does not.
The bad guys are a big corporation, from the lowliest box packager to the highest up CEO is unnecessarily evil for no reason. Because honey is bad.
I forget, the beekeepers, I suppose, who are out in the fields of like boxed beehives are like rubbing their hands together like they make the honey and we make the money. And I'm like, no one at that level is rubbing their hands together like that.
But here's where my proposal, where the bees and the humans never interact, works. Because if that's the case, then we're all seeing things from Jerry's perspective. He doesn't know exactly what the humans are saying, but he has a vague understanding, and that's what they're doing in his mind.
Yeah.
But then if we cut to what's actually happening, and they're just talking about sports or something, right?
Yeah.
And they're just holding the thing, then that's when that sort of like crazy, heightened reality world works. Because Barry doesn't know what's going on. He's just doing his best.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have this big evil corporation. Everyone's evil.
Anyway, back to the real movie.
Back to the movie. Barry, who is against working for the rest of his life at a single job, as I guess most people would be. And then the movie posits a solution. Barry fights the big evil corporation and ends his own culture's corporation and creates a system where there is plentiful food and I guess resources for everyone. Everyone has enough. No one has to work ever again. And then the movie says, but that's bad. You need to work or else the planet will die.
Yeah.
Society will fall apart is what it's trying to say, I think.
Sure. But then the moral of the story is work?
It creates this like preconceived notion, several preconceived notions that you have to buy into in order for its like allegory, its quasi-allegory to work. One is that if the working stops, it all goes. It's all done. That's it. And then 2 is that everyone loves to work. Everyone loves to work one job for their whole lives, even if it's being strapped to a comedic Ferris wheel / medieval torture device, putting on a funny hat that looks like a finger, and being spun around in a circle, picking up the last drop of honey, the last drop of earned honey spilled from a little jar. Everyone loves it. Barry's best friend Adam, he loves it more than anything. At the end of the movie, when the bees start working again, he's like, "Strap in, boys, make the calls you gotta make now, because we're going to be working late tonight." And then the Ferris wheel begins and everyone cheers. And I think to myself, oh no.
You know what the wildest part of that scenario is? He has an office.
That's right.
For being
what?
a human pinwheel.
Oh.
He clears out his office. Are you in the office?
Like, here's the thing that drives me up the wall, right? Because supposedly the movie is saying, and it doesn't even go full in on this, because when it establishes its world, it's telling us this is bad. We're making a joke out of the fact that, like, these bees work for Honexo, a subsidiary of Honeyco and Honeycon or whatever. And it's making a joke of how these bees have been alive for 3 days. And they have a great line that's like, "We know that as bees, you've worked for your entire life so that you can work for the rest of your life." And it's telling us very directly, this is abusive. This is like absurd and inane. No one should want this. We need to sympathize with Barry. But by the end of the movie, it's telling us, nah, this is a good thing, and everyone likes it. Oh, but wait, we did tell the audience that Barry doesn't like it. How do we fix that? Oh, here's our solution. It's not that Barry changes the way that things work. It's that Barry changes his own personal circumstances. So now he gets to be an animal rights lawyer who works in a florist office with his pseudo-platonic love interest human friend, and whenever he gets too bored and shut in, he gets to go and put on a pollen jockey suit and fly around with the pollen jockeys and deliver little quips like, "This came at the right time. I was really getting cooped up in that office." Barry lives a life of extreme privilege. He's the most lucky bee in the world. That's why things are any measure better at the end, because Barry got what he wanted, and all he did was create chaos.
This is the revolution where the leader of the revolution goes, "We've won! Everyone go back to your jobs now. I'm going to live in the palace." And they're like, "But we were in this together." "No." "Bye now."
You're right. You're also going back to work.
And you're going to like it. The alternative is worldwide annihilation.
Have fun. Box kite.
The bears are also have their own society, and so do the cows.
Well, that's the thing. At the end, all of a sudden, Barry's meeting with a cow, and the cow's like, "I just don't understand because I'm the one making the milk, and they take it all." And I'm like, hold on.
But cows don't drink the milk.
Baby cows.
I mean, yeah, but like, this is an adult cow.
It's, again, bits.
Yeah.
Bits.
No, that's true. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just bits.
This movie is also just like bad beekeeper propaganda.
We should be respecting the beekeepers, I think,
beekeepers
right?
are doing a great job.
I mean, from what little I know of, like, the larger corporate honey industry is that it's kind of, like, wild in terms of, like, bees are big business. And you will have, like, farmers, I think, actually specifically going out to, like, conventions where conventions is a loose term, but in instances in which a lot of these large industries that have bees get together and specifically try to steal the bees because kept bees are a valuable commodity in the modern day.
Definitely commercialized corporate honey is not great. That's why it's always better to get honey from your local ecosystem, I guess.
I don't even know enough to say one thing or the other. I'm at least confident enough in my own ignorance to not go out on a limb like apparently Jerry Seinfeld is.
But in general, most beekeepers are doing a good job of protecting bees and maintaining a nice living situation for bees. Because usually, like, if bees don't have a beehive to go to provided by beekeepers, they're going to go to someone's house and start a hive there, and then they're probably just going to call pest control and kill all the bees.
You could also call the Southern Texas bee lady. Rescuing bees in South Texas. I found these bees underside of a hubcap. I grabbed with my hands and put them in my pockets. There's the queen. In my mouth you go. Save the bees, everyone. Now I'm the hive. Sorry, she's doing great work.
Oh, wow. That's a nightmarish vision.
I also don't know enough to be the ultimate authority on all things bees, but from my general layman's understanding of bees and beekeepers are doing a good job. And honestly, like, bees, if they don't like where they're living, they will leave.
Yeah, you can't put a fence around a beehive and tell them, only have these flowers. They'll die.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain limitations to how you can control bees.
Yeah. The whole point is that they live in this hive that's provided by the beekeeper, but they still go out and pollinate flowers and come back to the hive.
Yeah.
So if they didn't like the hive, or if it was a horrible working condition as described in the bee movie, they would leave. It's just weird. The movie does not know what it wants to say.
I would be fascinated to learn about the writing process, specifically besides Jerry Seinfeld. The team who worked on this besides Jerry Seinfeld, what did they think?
I was trying to do some research, and I didn't uncover a whole lot. I think in some articles, it was just kind of talking about, when it came to the production of it, it was like, hey, it's Jerry's movie. What Jerry says kind of goes, just let it happen. I did also read an interesting blurb about Mr. Seinfeld was getting lunch with Mr. Spielberg, Steven Spielberg, or was it dinner? I believe it was dinner. This is a very important detail. They're having a conversation, they're riffing. Seinfeld was like, I had this funny idea for it would be about bees, and it's called the Bee Movie. Haha, get it? And Steven Spielberg was like, that's hilarious. You have to make that movie.
And then Jerry Seinfeld made a trailer for the Bee Movie in which he dresses up as a bee, and Steven Spielberg is in the trailer.
My mind is exploding. Why? Mr. Spielberg?
Well, he didn't know.
Get out of there. No.
I mean, if you're looking for new animated movies to make and someone comes to you and says, what about a fun movie about bees? And we can call it the Bee Movie. I'm sure at a certain point you're like, yeah, sure, make a script. What's the worst that could happen?
Mr. Spielberg, as history has taught us, sometimes you can't choose how you're remembered. Sometimes your greatest works are lost to time. And sometimes the strangest, tiniest things are all that is left of your legacy. And what if it's the Bee Movie trailer, Mr. Spielberg? Do you want to risk that?
Well, it's too late for him now.
Perhaps the only thing left of Jerry Seinfeld will be when he put on the very same bee costume and zip-lined off of a hotel roof.
I remember seeing these trailers as a kid. The one I remember distinctly is the one where he is on a giant windshield of a car being like hit with a windshield wiper and sprayers and yelling and rolling around with a bunch of other people in bug costumes. And it was so strange and surreal to me, I didn't realize it was the trailer for a movie. I just thought it was a funny thing on TV.
Yeah.
As a kid, there's nothing about that tells you this is an animated movie, right? It's got the same energy as the Ant-Man Ants trailer, where it's just them slapping their knees and yelling ants, but that's got good vibes. Jerry Seinfeld in a bee costume being sprayed with water and being hit by a giant plastic stick does not have good vibes.
For whatever reason, it almost feels intentional to me. Something I'm going to psychoanalyze this person I don't know. I feel like maybe there's a self-flagellation aspect to that. Jerry Seinfeld was like, this is cathartic to me. After this whole process of trying to make this movie, I just need to be sprayed with water and slapped with a giant windshield wiper.
I guess.
It almost matches with the Bee Movie itself. The idea that the trailer didn't know it was a trailer. The movie didn't know it was a movie. It was an assembly of things.
It's true. I'm wondering how much experience you guys have with the meme culture. Any specific memories or moments that you remember from your childhood about the meme culture of the Bee Movie? Because in my brain, I'm like, yes, this was a huge thing. But I struggle to pinpoint specifically what happened, how we got here.
That's the internet, my friend.
The only distinct meme that I honestly remember is when people would just post the entirety of the Bee Movie script onto Tumblr posts. The whole thing. And you'd have to scroll for ages to get past the end of the post.
Or where they'd stuff it all into a JPEG of something.
Yeah. Or there's YouTube videos where it's the Bee Movie, but every time they say the word bee, it gets faster.
A lot of, you like jazz?
I referenced this before, but in the first year of college, we had to make short films for class, and oftentimes we would just make them for fun because we hadn't yet been brought down by the heavy burden that is being an artist in the industry. And there was a group of friends. There was a group of guys called the Goofy Gang. I don't think they called themselves that. I think they just kind of adopted the term because they were just a big gang of guys and they were pretty goofy. But not in like a condescending way. They were just kind of fun to be around. And they shot a film, a very dramatic, surrealist film called The Bee Movie, where a man is haunted by a copy of The Bee Movie and experiences a waking nightmare where everyone's just saying lines of The Bee Movie at him as he tries to escape this endless hallway of like dread.
And now that you've seen the actual Bee Movie, you know that
it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
It is a fever dream. Just like the Sky High episode we did, I wrote notes as I watched the movie, intending to go through them, maybe to remember certain aspects. But a lot of them are just the word "what" in all caps. Because how?
I also took notes. Most of them are just about random Bee World lore. I can't even call it lore. I shouldn't call it lore. It's not that deep.
It's what? World building?
Yeah, it's just random Bee World facts.
Well, so many of them come in the form of bits.
Yes, the whole all bees are cousins bit. Because Barry has parents, but technically all bees are born of the queen bee.
They never show the queen.
They never show the queen.
I did look this up.
All bees are sisters.
Well, a lot of bees can be sisters, but a lot of them are also half-sisters. And to a certain extent, maybe cousins, because the drones... Let's talk about some bee biology. Welcome to Nostalgia Club. Today we're talking about bee biology. Bees are eusocial creatures, insects, arthropoda, much like ants, and, to the surprise of some, the naked mole rat. A mammal, a eusocial mammal. Now, what is eusociality? Well, that's a very fascinating question that you should Google. I'm going to summarize here by saying that it has to do with a certain aspect of collective action, collective mentality, collectivism. So you typically have some form of, I guess we could call it a matriarch, at least a breeding individual that just shunts out offspring. Like nothing's stopping them. Like a queen bee. The queen bee is only able to do this through the help of the only male bees that exist, which are called drones. Very precious few. And oftentimes, drones will be sent out from an existing hive to escort a princess, soon to be queen, to another place to make a new hive. But sometimes you also get drones from other hives that will allow a queen... I don't know what our limit is in talking about stuff that is considered taboo.
They make the baby and then they die.
Yeah, drones help the queen make the baby and the drones die immediately after. So you can have drones from other hives, multiple drones copulating with a queen, which means that some bees can be sisters, some bees can be like half-sisters, some bees can even be like cousins because, you cycle through queens. This also means that all worker bees are biologically kind of females. It's strange. I've read that when you talk about like bees and arthropods, it's less about like a binary male-female and more of like three different, not gender maybe isn't quite the right word, but just three different forms of a creature.
There's made to make babies, made to help make babies, and no babies.
Yeah. No babies just work.
No babies just work.
Kind of going off of that slightly, we also get the lore that interspecies dating is just a thing. There's a lot of bits about like, Barry's uncle ran away with I forgot what it was, like a cricket.
A cricket, yeah.
Yeah.
And how mosquito women don't like mosquito men. There's
weird.
a whole mosquito character that just kind of pops in and pops out.
Isn't it?
It's Chris Rock.
Yeah.
It's Chris Rock.
Yeah.
That was a jump scare for sure. When Chris Rock was suddenly there and then vanished in a puff of smoke, and then returned at the very end of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Wearing a necktie.
He becomes a mosquito lawyer.
And
I guess it sets up the interspecies dating so that it's not as far-fetched when Barry falls in love with this human, but it's still bad.
I don't know.
Can we talk about her?
There's so many articles that are specifically like from 10 years in the future of people saying, What is it with the bee movie and this interspecies romance? And so many articles with like quotes from the producers, including like Jerry Seinfeld, going, "Look, this is not what we intended. Look, maybe Barry thought that this is the way it was going, but this is not the direction we saw. When we wrote the script, we just pictured all the bee characters as regular characters so we could write them like people. So whatever. It's just a movie. Stop bothering us. Just leave us alone. Let us live our lives."
No.
And I'm like, you put this out there.
You did this.
See, they say that, but there's literally a line in the supermarket when Barry is sitting on Vanessa's shoulder and they're looking at all the honey, and he's
Yeah.
and he's just like, they're just chatting, and then he's just like, yeah, like bees have a lot of emotions, like happiness, sadness, lust. And I was like, what is happening?
It's bad.
The expression on his face when he
It's
says
so
it
bad.
is like alarming.
It's so scary. I was like, get me out of here.
That's Jerry Seinfeld B. Okay, first of all, definitely divorced her sane husband because
I don't know if that was her husband.
I think it's just her boyfriend.
whatever. They're no longer together because at the end of the movie, when he walks by the law office / flower shop, I guess, he definitely gives off the vibe of I'm no longer in her life.
Yeah.
And it's devastating to me.
He's like, that bee has my dream life.
Yeah.
Also, in her character introduction, and I had to write this down because it boggled my mind, she, in the span of 30 seconds, equates her boyfriend's life, I guess, to that of a bee, then ignores his deadly allergy, and then tears his brochure in half, something he was clearly very proud of, so proud enough to invite people over to show them.
She did not have to tear the brochure in half to get the bee out.
Right. In the span of 30 seconds, she dehumanized him on several different levels and then proceeds throughout the movie like he's the bad guy. All he did was he wanted to get a job. He's trying to get a job.
I mean, he's definitely not the greatest guy in the world, but he's definitely more sane than she is.
Sure, but you don't like if I had a deadly allergy
Yeah.
to a bee and then a bee showed up, I would react reasonably
Mhm.
with a level of caution and fear.
Yeah.
And if I was that person's significant other, I would not casually say, "Oh, don't kill it. I'll just put it right here, like 10 feet from you." It might just fly back in. You might die, but if I murder this bee, I'm a terrible person. If you die, that's fine.
Yeah, at least take it farther away.
Yeah, come on. Like,
I would be like, don't worry, I'll take care of it, and then put the bee in a cup and then like walk downstairs and find a nice flower pot or something and return the bee.
Yeah. And then when she starts talking to Barry and she switches from fear to casual, awkward conversation in an instant, I felt physical whiplash. I cannot fathom her
The
character.
secondhand embarrassment in this movie is so bad. When she's on the rooftop having her first date with Barry or whatever, and then she starts, it looks like she's talking to herself because there's just this random guy who's putting a light bulb or replacing a light bulb.
Set up for a bit.
It's so bad.
I would feel more embarrassed if I liked any of the characters.
That's true, yeah. No, I was just like, it's so cringy.
Just furthers my belief that Vanessa is having a mental breakdown from the moment that she sees Barry. Although it still also doesn't excuse the fact that before she even knows that Barry is a sentient creature, she does do that to Patrick Warburton's character and like rip up his like brochure and be like, "Oh, come on." It's very minor in comparison. It is a very benign statement like, "Oh, would you like that if someone just crushed you?" Because, you know, sometimes it's like just a vague excuse for don't squash that thing, that bug, that spider. Here, I'm just going to throw it outside. And you don't actually like mean it when you compare their life to another. You're just like, it's just like a little comedic finger waggle like, "Oh, you wouldn't like to get squished, would you?"
It makes me wonder how long they've been together. I feel like if they live together, they have to have dated for at least a significant amount of time where she would know of his aversion to bees and his allergy and all that.
I mean, he tells her right there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that she should be more understanding and
You can say those things, but also say, "I'm so sorry. You could die if you touch this thing. I'm going to not kill it, but throw it outside, and I won't condescend you for fearing for your life."
Yeah.
Oprah's in it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't even remember that. Who does she
The
play?
judge.
Really?
Matthew Broderick, is that him?
Really?
Yeah.
I guess I can see that.
How did all these people get tricked into this movie?
I'm sorry. Maybe I just heard it wrong, but there's a moment early in the movie after Barry and his friend Adam get out of like the tram of corporate life where Adam goes, "That blew my mind." Was that line clipping? It sounded like it was clipping to me.
It absolutely was. I remember that.
I played it back several times and I'm like, is something wrong with my like system here? But no.
It was absolutely clipping. The movie is polished enough to pass, but it's just sloppy enough to be funny.
Unintentionally sometimes.
Unintentionally funny. Oh, God. The handshake between Vanessa and Barry with that giant finger.
I don't even remember that.
There is something to be said about the genre of media where a normal-sized, quote, normal-sized person interacts with a abnormally minuscule character. Right?
Very Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah,
Gilligan's Island.
Big man. I don't know. I've seen a few of those or read a few of those stories. What is it? Secret Life of
Arrietty.
Arrietty. Yeah.
Ah, The Borrowers.
Sure.
Yeah.
But nothing made me so viscerally uncomfortable at the size difference than that shot of the handshake. Of this giant pointer finger coming down and then this tiny bee hand like grasping around it. I don't know what else to say about it, but it's just this movie is uncomfortable. I feel like often on this show I am negative towards this media as almost like a joke. Like I'm trying to like build up this kind of like entertaining narrative. And so I really tried to like this movie. And there are parts of it where I'm like, this isn't too bad.
Sure.
But it's just the whole movie is just so uncomfortable. It could be a good movie and it would still be uncomfortable. Something is wrong with it. And I'm glad most of humanity agrees with me to a certain level.
Yeah.
You don't make this sort of impact on the internet without having a movie that is just a little off for some reason.
Yeah.
The pacing was like watching a child trying to run down a wet water slide.
Oh my God.
Like at the top of those really tall, like loopy water slides, and then watching a child try to sprint down one. That was the pacing of this movie. Because sometimes the child's up and moving pretty fast, but then sometimes it slips and tumbles down head over heels, and it will stop. It'll stop itself with both hands, gasping and bruised, and it'll clamber to its feet and begin to run again. Oh, it tripped! There it goes! Tumbling down the water slide, and then inevitably it hits the bottom and into an apocalypse allegory. And the child's floundering in the water. And then you're on the sidelines looking at the lifeguard asking yourself, how many bees does it take to lift an airplane? Because now I want to know.
I forgot about that. I blocked the whole plane sequence from my memory.
I'm looking this up right now.
A bunch of bees are carrying this plane, and then Vanessa doesn't know where the flower is to land on, and they just keep going back and forth and back and forth. And I was like, how is she this stupid?
Yeah, all the bees form this like flower with their bodies.
Yeah, she's like, what flower? And I'm like, the giant black and yellow one on the ground that's moving?
Yeah, like even at the end when the stakes are supposed to be like the highest they've been, we're still making room for bits because you have like a Hawaiian Airlines thing with the giant, what is it, like hibiscus flower? And the plane.
It's just bee jokes.
It's just bee jokes. All the way, it's bee jokes all the way down.
7 billion bees to lift a fully loaded 747 or half that number if we're really going to work them.
I did think it was funny that Barry could communicate with other bees through his antenna and that he would have a ringtone when someone called him.
That was a funny detail.
Yeah, I was like, huh.
He twists his antenna into like a little
like
headset.
A headpiece, yeah.
I did like that. There were moments in this movie of genuine cleverness and good visual storytelling that were just bombarded by the bits. By Jerry Seinfeld doing his darndest to be himself.
How eviscerating.
Sorry, Jerry. You don't know who I am, and I hope it stays that way.
Likewise. If on the off chance you are listening to this, I do want to say I have a lot of sympathy. And if you still like this movie, this passion project of yours, I think that's okay. Because, I don't know, it's different. It's different watching the B movie than watching Morbius, which is a strange thing for me to say because I have not watched Morbius.
I was going to say, I was like, have you watched it?
I imagine watching Morbius is an extremely boring experience. And at least watching the B movie, I was engaged the entire time.
Yeah.
By the wild imagination of the people who created this piece of media, I never looked away. Never once did I wish I was doing something else because I was locked in and my mind was reeling. I assume watching Morbius, because I'm never going to watch Morbius.
No.
I assume watching Morbius is like being put into a deep, restless sleep, wishing you could leave but unable to move because of the paralysis has locked you in. And Jared Leto's in the corner, morbing all over your room.
Catch us on the next episode of Nostalgia Club.
No, it hasn't been long enough. We can't be nostalgic about it.
Yeah, I would say, back to your original question at the beginning of the episode, Michael, I'm not nostalgic for the B movie, but I really did want to hear Jino's reactions to this movie.
Yeah, I think that's what I was looking forward to most in
Yeah.
terms of talking about this.
You know what? I am nostalgic for the period of time in my life where these were the kind of jokes that me and all my friends are making. Just silly jokes about a movie that we weren't dunking on. We were just celebrating how strange it was.
Mhm.
We weren't saying this movie sucks and I hate it and I want it to die. We were just saying, hey, what a strange thing to happen. And isn't it funny that this thing exists and we're going to celebrate that?
It did feel like that. When it gained its internet resurgence, it was a celebrated thing in comparison to the Morbius memes, which I think had more of an ill spirit to them.
It was an active, what's the word? The whole internet was shaking its finger at the creators of Morbius and the studio behind it, saying, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do this. But with the B movie, everyone said, Jerry did that. And it was weird, but we're glad you did.
Yeah.
Because you've given us this thing that we can turn into so many other things.
An act of creation is a valuable thing in and of itself,
Yeah.
compared to an act of manufacturing.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that sets us apart from other, quote, bad movies, is that you can feel the passion behind it, however strange and off-putting that passion is.
However charged that passion
Oh,
is
gosh.
at times.
I actually rewatched the movie with a group of friends, and I think that maybe helped my rewatching experience. I think I had more fun with it because all of us collectively were making fun of it together and reacting to it together. Like the part in Barry's dream sequence where he's imagining his date with Vanessa and she flies a plane and it explodes.
That was really funny. That was genuinely really funny.
It was so funny, and like some of my friends like looked away right at that second, so we had to replay it so that they could watch it again, and it was so funny.
That scene, first of all, I had no idea there was a dream sequence for about half of it. I was like,
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
going on? Is this a dream? No, it's not a dream. Is this a dream? And then the plane just hitting the cliff.
It was so good.
It's almost like an anti-Chekhov's gun setup for the ending where she actually has to fly a plane.
That's true.
Oh, I didn't
A
even
moment
realize.
of brilliance.
I
in
didn't
a
even
B
realize
movie.
it paid off like that. But yeah, that moment was so funny.
It's not a Chekhov's gun. What am I talking about?
Chekhov's B-plane? I don't know.
It's pronounced biplane.
Oh my gosh.
It was a biplane. Or was it? I don't know enough about planes.
Well, we're sorry to have beset you all with these funny jokes and observations of a very...
Bad movie.
I was trying to think of a B word. I had like dozens of these spinning around my head driving in today.
Beautiful. Delicious.
Bees
nuts. Cutting that one out. Can't say that on the pod. There's kids listening?
No,
Are there?
I was like, you can probably keep that.
It was very unbecoming of you, Jino.
No. No.
That wasn't dirty, unbecoming.
I know, but when you change the pronunciation of "b" to "b," it gets worse.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to have beleaguered you with these distasteful puns.
Remember B. Larry King?
You know what? I enjoyed that.
That was good.
That was like one of the very few. There's so many like meta jokes nowadays in media where it's like, hey, we're pointing out the fact that this is meta, and it just doesn't really land. But for whatever reason in this movie where Jerry Seinfeld's character is like, the humans have a version of you. He's just called Larry King. And then B. Larry King is like, all right, that's very nice. On the next time, he's like, no, seriously, he's got like a little map in the back. He's got
Yeah.
words at the bottom saying exactly what people just said.
Yeah.
He even looks like you. He's got the hair. It's uncanny.
It reminded me of the Larry King cameo in Gravity Falls. They did the same thing where they had a wax Larry King that they beheaded and shoved into the vents.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And then later in the episode, Larry King goes, I'm in the vents talking to a rat. I'm talking to a rat. And they got Larry King to say that. Well done.
Many props to Larry King for his appearance in the B movie.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been a wild ride, an unbelievable ride.
Until next time, you like jazz?
Thank you for listening to the first season of Nostalgia Club. We apologize for ending it on one of the strangest notes possible.
I regret nothing, actually.
Well, that is very B of you. I don't know. I was hoping a word would come.
This is going to be a nightmare to edit.
Yeah. Sorry, future Jino. Anyways, yeah.
Sorry, Bino.
No. 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 Beano? You mean the pills people take when they fart after eating vegetables?
Wait, that's a thing?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I swear I didn't know that. Oh, no.
How dare you?
Oh, no.
Michael Bean.
How dare you?
You know, you're not the first person to say that, Michael Bean.
Michael Bean.
I was going to be like, Michael.
Michael.
What do you get when you cross a very talented podcast editor with a brand of pen? Victoria.
What?
Like big pens?
I know, but what?
Why is today so
That's my
weird?
reaction to the B movie. I know,
It's
but
Monday.
what?
Gino, I'm sorry.
That's it for season 1 of Nostalgia Club. We'll be back in a couple weeks with some more nostalgic content. But in the meantime, go watch or read some of your favorite nostalgic media or listen to some of our old episodes if you would like. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Leave a rating and subscribe. Please. Please. You can just write, I like podcasts, and hit enter, and really help us out.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Nostalgia Club. If you enjoyed this episode, follow us on Twitter at _Nostalgia Club and on Instagram at Nostalgia Club Podcast. Leave a comment, give us a rating, and subscribe. You can also send us an email with your suggestions for what we should review next at nostalgiaclubpodcast@gmail.com.
Before we start, Casey, you've seen the B movie, right?
Yes, I have. I've seen pictures of the entire script that people have written out.
But you've watched the B movie?
Yeah, a very long time ago, but yes.
Do you remember the B movie?
Not so much.
It's crazy. Do you want to hear about it in 60 seconds?
Yes.
Yes? So I don't know if you recall, but the B movie was Jerry Seinfeld's little pet project. Did you know that he only started making it because Steven Spielberg told him to? Crazy, right?
It was a DreamWorks thing, yeah.
Yeah, but Spielberg directly at dinner. Anyway, Barry falls in love with a human woman and then takes the humans to human court. And the human's defense is, please don't. And then it's a heist movie for like 30 seconds. And then it's a plane apocalypse movie for a hot minute. It's a regular apocalypse movie for about 10 minutes. God, you got to see it, man.
I got to watch it again. It's one of those movies that like I do remember, and I do remember being very crazy, and there's a lot of memes about it. Like that one character is like, I mean, you can't see it on the mic.
There's a couple lines where they're just straight up clipping. They just didn't fix them. It's wild.
Like, that's fine. You're peeking. It's,
they got Sting in there for an extended cameo. Oprah's in it.
What?
Did you know that? She's the judge. Anyway, that's the B movie.
I feel like I've been trapped. I feel like I got trapped in some sort of retro recording of some sort.
Yeah, we actually don't need Walla today. This was just to get you in here.
Okay.
No, now we're gonna record.
It was all a ruse.